Great expectations. That is a phrase that could describe the Reading High Red Knights heading into the 1990-91 basketball season. Virtually everyone in the Berks Conference, except maybe Governor Mifflin, had all but conceded the county title to the Knights. But the expectations did not stop there. The Knights were one of the preseason picks to compete for the very competitive District 3 Class Quad A championship. Winning that trophy was a major goal for the team after a bitter and controversial loss to Steelton High Spire the year before. There was still another expectation. The Red Knights and their coach, Mike Miller, were gearing themselves for a run at the big daddy of them all, the state championship. Some of these expectations were fulfilled, others were not, but the Knights gave their loud and loyal fans an exciting season. In the next 30 minutes, we'll look back at a very successful and record-breaking 1990-91 campaign. Reading put together a very competitive non-league schedule. The first weekend of the season saw the Knights travel to Pottstown for the first ever McDonald's Tip-Off Classic. Reading drew St. Pius X in the opening round, and Reading breezed to a 29-point win, setting up a much-anticipated final with Pottstown and a showdown between two all-state candidates, Pottsville's Del Savage and Reading's Donyell Marshall. The two marquee names struggled, shooting a combined 8 for 35, but Rick Cabasa clicked for 22, and a last-second attempt by Pottstown was wiped out by a traveling violation as the Knights won the tourney 63-61. A 2-0 Coatesville team was next in the Knights' Geigel Complex opener. The much smaller and quicker Red Raiders pestered the Knights all game, but fell 62-58. Marshall led the way with 29 points and 18 rebounds, and his 2 free throws with 2 seconds left sealed the victory. The Red Knights reached 4-0 with a very methodical 78-64 win at Hazleton. Rick Cabasa tallied a career-high 26 points. The Knights then opened league play with a 19-point victory over Wilson in what would be Reading's closest game in the conference. It was a typical Donyell Marshall game, 33 points, 16 rebounds, and 5 blocked shots. Reading rolled to win number 6 in a row, 88-37 over Exeter, behind 24 points from Marshall, 16 from Fats Burdine, and 12 from Rick Cabasa. Reading tuned up for its Christmas tournament with a 77-48 rout at Lancaster McCaskey. Marshall, Cabasa, and point guard Sean Flynn all scored in double figures. Heading into the Reading High Christmas tournament, everyone pointed to a potential Reading-Harrisburg championship game. In the opening round, Reading got 21 points from Cabasa in beating Upper Darby 79-51. Harrisburg beat St. Joseph's to set up a showdown between the Knights and Dan Bowie and his Cougar teammates. The title game was all Reading, 75-54. MVP Donyell Marshall went over 1,000 points in his career with a 22-point, 18-rebound performance. Rick Cabasa scored 24, Mike Eberhardt 13 to join Marshall on the all-tournament team. Bowie scored 20, but he and his disappointed teammates left Reading hoping for a rematch. If you've lost count, Reading's hard-fought 61-55 triumph over Bishop Kenrick put the Knights at 10-0, the first time that happened since 1982. The smaller and slower Kenrick led by 11 after a quarter, catching the Knights by surprise with an efficient high-post offense. The Knights battled back, and a 28 for 36 performance at the foul line fueled the victory. Win number 11, all Donyell Marshall. The 6'8 senior scored a school record 43 points in an 87-73 win over Williamsport. The effort broke Brian D'Amico's record of 42 set in 1986, and for good measure, Marshall added 13 rebounds and 9 blocked shots. Mike Eberhardt posted a career-high 18 points, and Rick Cabasa chipped in with 15. It was back to the Berks Conference for win number 12, 68-38 over Boyertown. The Knights put this one away early, holding the Bears to 2 of 26 shooting in the first half, en route to a 35-10 lead at the break. Marshall continued his outstanding play with 28 points, 19 rebounds, and 7 blocks. Reading and Governor Mifflin were both 3-0 in Division I entering their first meeting, and it was the Knights who emerged with their perfect record intact, 73-48. With the Mustangs matching up size-wise, the Knights took their game outside, setting a school record with 9 3-pointers, 4 each from Cabasa and Flynn, who combined for 32 points. Flynn with a career-high 16. Marshall came through with an oh-by-the-way 23 points, 18 rebounds, and 5 blocked shots. A non-league matchup with Whitehall was next for the Knights. The Zephyrs were red hot from the field, 11 for 16 from three-point land. But the Red Knights held on 76-70 for their 14th straight win. Balanced scoring was the key. Marshall 24, Cabasa 23, and Fats-Burdine 19. 5 straight games against Division II opponents were next as Reading began the crossover portion of its schedule. The Knights swept the series by an average margin of 43 points to reach 19-0 overall and 9-0 in league play. Twin Valley was first, falling 83-35. Reading forced 27 turnovers, and Marshall threw down 6 dunks in a 26-point game. Jamal Smith came off the bench to score 10 for the Knights. Muhlenberg was next. The Mules got a great game from Mike Malinowski, who had 25 points, but 3 Reading starters were in double figures, and the Knights cruised 93-65. The Red Knights kept it in high gear in an 87-41 victory over Conrad Weiser. Marshall played less than 3 quarters, but still managed to score 23 points. At this point, Coach Mike Miller started to become concerned about all the easy wins and a team that was not very intense at times. Next up, a trip to Hamburg, and the Knights returned with a 41-point win. Fats-Burdine was the spark plug with a season-high 22 points.
Here's a shot nailed by Fats-Burdine. Burdine with a nice off-balance shot as he nails it.
Marshall led all scorers with a powerful 29 points, and Cabasa tossed in 15. Reserves such as Sly Williams, Kirk Glimp, Jamal Smith began to contribute more and more points. Eventual Division II champion Daniel Boone became the first team to give up 100 points against the Knights when Nate Martin scored at the buzzer. The Knights' pressure defense turned what once was a close game into a cakewalk. In front of several Division I college coaches, Marshall pumped in 25. Sly Williams had 14 and Cabasa 13. The Knights headed to the second go-round against Division I opponents with a perfect 19-0 record. The Wilson Bulldogs became victim number 20, 77-54. After a sluggish start, the Knights turned it on in the third quarter, outscoring the Bulldogs 17-6. A couple of dunks by Marshall ignited the crowd. Donyell finished with 31 points, and Fats-Burdine was outstanding with 17. The Knights hit the century mark again next time out in a 111-50 win at Exeter. The Eagles' up-tempo offense played into Reading's hands, and the Knights ran off 17 straight points to end the third quarter. Burdine led all scorers with 23, Marshall posted 21, and Rick Cabasa 20. The 111 points established a school record. For the third time in 4 games, the Knights hit for 100 points, this time a 101-50 rout of Red Lion in a non-league contest. This one was run and gun from the start as Reading scored 32 points in the first quarter. Marshall, playing with a slightly sprained ankle, scored 17. Cabasa had 15. Sly Williams 12 off the bench, and Mike Everhart 11. The final game at the Geico Complex was a 96-56 victory over Boyertown that clinched the Division I championship. Marshall put on a dunking display in his home finale as 6 of his first 8 baskets were jams. The big guy finished with 30 points, and Coach Miller felt his team was beginning to peak with 1 regular season game left. The Knights made it 24-0, 68-46 over Governor Mifflin without the services of Marshall, who rested that sprained right ankle. Sly Williams got the starts and responded with a fine effort. Rick Cabasa had a sensational 22 points to go along with 10 rebounds, as the Knights completed a 13-0 league season. The Knights drew Division IV champion Central Catholic in the Berks Conference semifinals. Many expected a rout, but the scrappy Cardinals took it right at the Knights, led at several points, and were tied with 6.5 minutes remaining. But Donyell Marshall took over and led Reading to the county title game with a 55-50 victory. Marshall finished with 26 points and 11 rebounds in leading the Knights to an extremely hard-fought win. Daniel Boone provided the opposition in the county championship game, and the Knights set a school record for consecutive victories at the start of a season with 26, with a 72-50 conquest. Illness and injury slowed them down, but the Knights still managed a 22-point margin. Marshall was very frustrated by all the banging down low, but shook it off to score 24. The Knights headed to the District 3 tournament as the number 2 seed in Class 4A, ironically behind a Harrisburg team that Reading had already beaten by 21. In the district opener, the Southwestern Mustangs tried to slow things down against Reading and managed to do so, but still fell 51-31. The game was closer than the score indicates, as the Mustangs trailed by just 7 after 3 quarters. But the Knights found the right gear in the fourth quarter, outscoring the Mustangs 20-7. Marshall threw in 19 and Rick Cabasa 10, plus reserve Jamal Smith provided a spark with 9 points. The Knights advanced to meet Central Dauphin, and it was all Reading, 78-50. Coach Miller was exuberant that his team had finally put it all together. Cabasa and Marshall each had 20 as the Knights shot an incredible 66% from the field. Fattsburg had 13, and it was off to Hershey Park Arena for a semifinal meeting with old nemesis Steelton High Spire. The Steamrollers were the ones who were crushed in a 78-58 Reading victory. Over 8,000 watched Reading shoot 71% in the second half to turn a 2-point game into a rout. It was win number 29 in a row to set an all-time school record. The scoring came from all 5 starters: Marshall 24, Cabasa 17, Berdeen 16, Eberhardt 10, and Flynn 9. This set up a return trip to Chocolatetown and a much-awaited rematch with an improved Harrisburg team for the District 3 championship. Both teams were fired up, talking trash and pushing and shoving. The Cougars avenged the Christmas tourney loss with a 77-69 win, giving the Knights their first loss of the season. The Cougars engineered a 20-point turnaround in a quarter and a half to take home district gold. 29 points from Robert Tate and 25 from Danny Bowie were too much for the Knights, who tired late in the game against a Cougar defense that set up many easy baskets. The key to the game may have been a controversial hanging on the rim technical foul called against Marshall early in the fourth quarter. The Cougars then went on to score 7 points in 41 seconds. Marshall and Cabasa were tremendous with 22 and 21 points respectively, but the Knights went home disappointed, but looking forward to the state tournament. A halftime tongue lashing from Coach Miller sparked Reading to its 30th victory, 80-63 over Ben Salem. As usual, Marshall was the key, 30 points, 7 dunks, and 18 rebounds. But it was Kirk Glimp who provided a lift with a nifty 11-point effort. Berdeen added 17 and Sean Flynn 13 as they took advantage of the Owls' triangle and 2 defense. Again, the third quarter was the key as Ben Salem's 3-point shooters went cold and the Knights opened up a 17-point lead. Next up, a trip to Pottsville for a rematch with Hazleton in a second-round state game. The Knights struggled for a time and were forced out of their 2-3 zone by a very deliberate Mountaineer offense, but they advanced nonetheless with a 62-44 win at Martz Hall. A couple of calls against the Knights irritated Coach Miller, who drew a technical foul, and Hazleton built a 6-point lead. The defense of Jamal Smith and Kirk Glimp held Hazleton's top 2 scorers to 1 of 14 shooting in the second half, and the Knights' offense clicked to a 39-15 advantage over the final 2 quarters. Marshall controlled the boards with 26 rebounds and added 24 points, many electrifying. Foul shooting hampered Reading as the Knights were just 9 for 26 from the line, but they persevered and earned a berth against the defending state champions, the Glen Mills Battling Bulls. They say all good things must come to an end, and so it was for Reading in the Eastern semifinal. The Knights fell behind 18-4, made a tremendous run to nearly take the lead, only to see the Bulls score 32 points in the fourth quarter to pull away for a 78-59 win. The Bulls held Donyell Marshall scoreless in the first half, but the 6'8 senior came back with 20 in the second half to become the all-time leading scorer in Reading history. For the first time all year, the Knights were decisively the smaller team, and the Bulls added good quickness and a smothering full-court defense to bring Reading's outstanding campaign to a close at 31-2. The man in charge of the Reading High Red Knights was, to say the least, intense at all times. Coach Mike Miller discussed his feelings about the 1990-91 season.
Throughout the summer, our expectations in the beginning of the summer weren't very high, but as we worked hard throughout the summer, and then once the season started and when practice started on November the 19th, the expectations were pretty high. Well, I think the high point of the season, I really can't point to one game. We had a 29-game winning streak, so there were a lot of different high points. We won our first 29 games. I can look at a number of games. Beating a good Coatesville team early in the year, beating Pottstown early in the year were two very good wins. Harrisburg, winning our Christmas tournament, beating a good Harrisburg team by 21 points was a high point. We beat Williamsport at home. That also was a very good win for us. A high point probably once we started to get to the playoffs, winning our third straight Berks County championship, beating Daniel Boone was a high point. Then we went on to the state playoffs, beating Hazelton, then Steel High in the district playoffs. They were all a high point. I really can't point at one specific game and say, hey, that was a high point for us where maybe we played better or the meaningfulness of the game. I think they were all high points for us. Our goal was to keep our winning streak going. So it really didn't matter who we played as far as getting up for a game. I think we probably set a record as far as point comparison of winning our league. I can't remember a team winning the league as easily as we did. And there's probably a couple factors that came about in us doing that. We were a very good team, and we played well against the Berks County teams, which I think made some of the scores more lopsided than usual. Finished 31-2 like we did this year. I mean, this team will be remembered, and I think throughout time, for a team to be remembered, it's going to depend on what they do in the future. And I think there were some winners on this team that you didn't hear the last about them. And I think for a team to go 31-2 and to win their first 29 games with all the high expectations of them before the season started, and to continue to keep winning, that's what I'll remember the most about this team, their competitiveness, and they did whatever they had to do to make a commitment to win. Well, as far as expectations for next year, there's a couple questions that were being asked throughout this whole season. What school is Donyell Marshall going to go to? And I think we can answer that by saying University of Connecticut. Will the coaching staff be back? And I can say that we definitely will be back the way it looks right now. And the third question that everyone seems to be asking me is, how's the team going to be next year? And I don't think we're going to rebuild, we're going to reload. We got the program exactly where we want it. There's some good talent in the junior highs right now. There's some guys that Jamal Smith is probably going to be our leader and our captain, who saw some meaningful minutes this year. And our JVs went 19-3 this past year. They had one of the best records ever for a JV team. So we're going to be fine for the year 1991-92.
You know Mike Miller's thoughts on the season. Now we'll get the reactions of the players who made up the Knights team.
The district final loss was the toughest to accept. It was a real heartbreaker.
There was a lot of exciting parts. But I say when I first went over Harrisburg, that was an exciting part too. Because not me knowing much about the rivalry between Harrisburg and Reading, it was more exciting for them than for me. But after that game, we had much fun. It was, an exciting part.
I think the best part of the season for me was accomplishing a lot of goals that I had set forth. And as team-wise, I think we did a lot of things like coming together as one team. I think that was the main success of us going 29, winning our first 29 games. And then, even after that first loss, we still stayed together as one team, and I think that was the best part of that season. We stayed as one family.
Christmas tournament, I would say, was the best because we beat a real good team, which was Harrisburg. We've been wanting to play them for the longest before that game came, because they beat us. They beat us in the summer league, so we wanted to show them that they couldn't hang with us at the level they were playing.
I think we had the best fans in the state.
I just like being part of the team because, many ninth graders I get the opportunity to play with guys like that. And so just being part of the team was good enough for me.
Just being with some of the players on the team, like bus rides and stuff. It's fun playing, but it's fun being a team too.
Just working with the guys. I mean, they really appreciated everything that was going on. They worked hard not only on the basketball court, they worked hard in the classroom and in school, and it was fun. Just seeing the appreciation of the guys on the team. That means a lot.
I would have to put it into a capsule. I can't really pick out one game. I would say that winning our Christmas tournament is always a goal. And then to go on from there and win the county championship is our second goal. And then there was high expectations of the team because of what we did during the summer in the summer leagues, and of course winning our tournament in Berks County. That was expected. But we had district aspirations, and we fell a game short there. That was a disappointment, but the record was phenomenal. 31-2. I didn't think we would go 31-2. So I would just say, to put it in one big summarization, that just the record 31-2.
Donyell Marshall, 6'8", one of the most talked about high school players in Berks County history. If his team had great expectations, his were greater. A Division I college lock, and more talk about an NBA future. The pressures to perform were great, as were those pressures applied by college recruiters. Marshall handled the hype without flaw until the night's first loss, when he was nearly too disappointed to accept his silver medal. But his performances on the court were rewarded with honors and rewards. His 1,581 points established a school record. He was named All Berks County, and that was just the beginning. Pennsylvania Big School Player of the Year, Gatorade Circle of Champions Pennsylvania and Middle Atlantic Player of the Year. But those were topped off by these: Parade Magazine All-American, McDonald's All-American, and appearances in 2 nationally televised All-Star games and a trip to the White House to meet the president. But as the accolades piled up, so did the recruiting intensity. It seemed as if everyone wanted this quiet superstar. The weeding out process was long, confusing, and filled with pressure. Eliminated were Temple, Pitt, Villanova, and many others. It came down to the final 3, Maryland, Syracuse, and Connecticut. Potential sanctions from the NCAA knocked Syracuse out of contention, and then there were 2. The Connecticut people thought they had him. Maryland folks felt he was theirs. A final trip to UConn settled things in the Huskies' favor, and the high school All-American joined one of the top 3 recruiting classes in the nation. The lean leaper was downright dominating for much of the season, whether inside for powerful dunks or outside for three-pointers. Marshall led the night's offense. But he was more than a scorer. He could handle the basketball. His tremendous passing ability gave teammates easy baskets, and boy did he rebound and block shots. Donyell Marshall simply took over games and more than once would not let his team lose. His teammates knew he was the man, but he also knew he needed them in order for the Knights to be successful. When you play an up-tempo offense like Reading does, you get many easy baskets. And when you are a high-flying squad, many of those hoops become dunks. The Knights had their share of jams, and many victories were capped off by one of the Knights throwing one home. It was quite a run for the Reading High Red Knights in their record-setting 1990-91 season. Donyell Marshall set single season and career scoring records. Mike Miller was the County Coach of the Year, and Rick Cabasa was named to the All-County team. The season began with an incredible 29-game winning streak, and Reading's 31 wins were one short of the county record. And the Red Knights won their third straight Berks Conference title. Great expectations. Some of them were realized, others were not fulfilled. But the Reading High Red Knights of 1990-91 have made their mark on Berks County basketball history forever.
Hammer time, but this is Dr. G Stammer time. I'm here to talk, I'm serious. Of these sports teams, I'm delirious. What helps to succeed are these great girls who cheerlead. In Lady Knights round ball, our girls stand tall. A tournament victory to their credit. Improvement, yeah, you bet it. The Bulldogs got a face that's flat. They got that way with our wrestling team on the mat. You know the speed of Chris Robertson. Our whole track team is on the run. Bowling team's got fame, knocking other teams down frame by frame. In swimming now, we've got no sweat with girls and guys like Shorn and Bertolet. Not only great swimmers, but what hunks. Who'd you rather see? Matter run Lubis in their trunks. With credit to the thrillers, coaches Singleton, Miller, and Miller, their practices are a killer. With 1,000 foul shots practiced as a filler, the team is solid, coaches hollered, starting with the kid, Bobby Pollard. And there's no need to get barbaric with the likes of Braun, name of Eric. One of the main men, Sean Flynn, watch those three-pointers are going in. Yeah, Donyell is slick, but Rick is slick. Hey, Cabasa, Rick Cabasa. And the guy with the smirk, well, that's Kurt. Every shot.